Welcome to the Nirvana Strength Practitioners Panel Podcast. I'm Ian MacLeod, the co-founder of Nirvana Strength. On today's episode, we're going to be speaking with Travis Jones. Hi, Travis.
Hey, what's happening, man?
Okay, so guys, the idea again, all right, the podcast is human performance optimization, right? And it's defined as the process of applying knowledge, skills, technologies to improve and preserve the capabilities of humans to execute essential tasks. Kind of a mouthful, but the idea is to thrive as a human, to become the best version of yourself, and not just get through life. You know,
Mediocrity.
Yeah, mediocrity is the bane of existence.
Exactly, which is 90% of society.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. All right, so now that you feel bad about your life, today we are recording our podcast from one of the most recommended accommodations in the Canggu area, the Haven Suites BALI BERAWA, located in Canggu. It's seriously like 10 steps from the beach, and it's a good place to make your holiday epic. And also joining maybe Nirvana Strength while you're here as well. So first, maybe just start off, Travis. What does the idea of human performance optimization mean for you?
I think there's a couple of things. I would say that it's living with health and vitality. So I think like health and vitality being like you are living as your most optimal self. Being Abraham Maslow said, he's a psychologist, like what man can be, man must be, and I think so many of us aren't living to our true potential because there's about 500 million moments in someone's lifespan. And they say a moment is 3 seconds. And that's about 4,000 moments every single day.
Yeah.
Now, every single 3 seconds, you can have a choice of a negative thought or a positive thought. You can have a choice of a negative food that's going to take you away from your most optimal self, or a positive one. You can press snooze on your alarm or you don't. Now, these 4,000 moments, one is plus in towards your best version of yourself, or like what man can be, man must be. So it's plussing towards that. Or the other one is minus. So at the end of the day, you can be plus 4,000 or minus 4,000. And if we're looking at that, that's an 8,000 moment difference from your optimal self. So that's pretty crazy.
So plus or minus.
Yeah,
so
plus or minus.
Yeah,
so it's
right.
like plus 4,000 or minus 4,000. So there's 8,000 difference between your lesser version of yourself or most optimal version of yourself. So I think that's, for me, it starts psychologically. It's like, what are you thinking of? And then how are you putting that into your actions? Like, what is your identity, really? Yeah. And how are you putting that into your actions? And then how are you putting that into your training? And how are you putting that into, anything in life, really? And I think that's human performance and most optimal for me. It's a little bit different, but
no, it's good. I mean, it's a very in-depth answer, which is awesome. So if we're thinking about where you're at this point, like what was a little bit backstory on yourself? Like, how did you? Obviously, I wouldn't think you were a baby thinking this way, right? you had to go through some process to get to the point where you're kind of actually thinking this way right now. So like maybe give an idea of like what are all the mess ups that you've had, or what's been part of your journey to actually get to this point.
I think the first thing is it's like having a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. I think that's the crucial thing. Like some people believe, like I think a lot of people living in mediocrity, it's like I was born this way, so this is my life. Right, and that's a fixed mindset. And I remember when I was like under 12s playing rugby, come to the end of the season, and I got the coach's award. And I was like, damn it, I must be the shittest kid on the team.
It is, that is, it's like the.
It's like the participation award.
Yeah.
I was like, I remember like I was under 12s and I got this like coach's award, and I was like, I am never getting a coach's award again in my life. And I was like 12 years old. Yeah. And I was like, so that next season, I was like, I trained every night. I trained every morning. And the next year I won the best and fairest. And then I got to play state, and I got to play like an under 18s Australian sort of squad, which was fantastic. And it sort of took me into trying to play rugby league. I went through a couple of hiccups. Like my dad passed away when I was 17, and that sort of made me think about life differently because he was 57, and then
that's super young.
Super young, yeah.
Wow.
So it was pretty crazy. Like it was, it's super intense. But I was like 17 in year 12 high school and he passed away. So it makes you think about life a little bit differently, like how short it can be.
Yeah.
And then when I was 18, like I got picked up for an off season with the Canberra Raiders. And in that off season, I caught meningococcal. So it's like a
what?
Meningococcal. It's like meningitis, but like a different type of strain.
I thought that was like the name of the team.
No, man. Like it's pretty crazy though. Like it's a blood bacteria. So I was like, it eats away at your flesh. So I caught it. I was at my mate's house, and
you caught it from your mate.
No, some people carry it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I think 30% of people carry it and they don't have it, and you can get it
so
from
it's like
sharing drink
STDs.
bottles. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like but sharing drink bottles on the on the footy field. It was fucking crazy, and I was like, I was at my mate's house. I was having it. I felt really off, and I went and had it. Like it was off that night. Next morning, woke up. I had a shower, and I passed out in the shower. And like his sister was living there. She's like, I need to go to work. Get him out of this shower. And I kicked the door down. I'd passed out. I'd laying on the floor. So they called the ambulance, and they said I had about 30 seconds to live before they got there. I flatlined 4 times.
Wow.
I was in intensive care for 3 months.
How old were you at that time?
18.
18.
Yeah, 3 months I was in intensive care, had kidney failure, and I came out of it I was like, wow, like life can be short. Like a year later after that happened. And then I tried to play rugby league again. I had so many injuries over the next couple of years, like breaking multiple bones, tearing multiple muscles. And I was like, rugby's not for me. And it pushed me into a career which is like personal training and helping people get to where they want to be in life. Yeah. And then I sort of got down to the mental side of things from, being a trainer for like, 7-8 years before I started RBT. So I've got like 15, 16 gyms now. I was like, it doesn't really matter what nutrition plan you give people or what training program you give them if they don't have a bit of a psychological shift to actually want it to happen.
Yeah, that behavior change is really important. I mean, as a trainer, you could always give the example of you could write the most perfect program in the world, and it's gonna be like it'll change your life. But the problem is that if you just blindly give it to 1,000 different people, they all interpret it in their own unique ways. Most of the time, probably not in the most beneficial way or the way that the programmer intended. But yeah, the behavior changes are super important. I think coming from that perspective with regards to how you try to change people's lives leads to longer lasting effects,
Yeah, man. I think it's like 90% of people who started transformation gain back more weight than they started.
Well, the perfect example would be like the whole The Biggest Loser TV show, right? Like so many people like lose massive amounts of weight, and the way they train on that show, right? Just kill yourself training, eat like no food, and they make like massive fat loss, but then it's like 95% of all those participants gain it all back or even more.
I think I read a study the other day. It's like people's like 5 years after The Biggest Loser, they still had some form of metabolic downgrade, like metabolic adaptation to a lower metabolism 5 years after the show because they're on 500 calories for the whole time and just getting thrown into the ground.
This is a very interesting thing about with regards to like going on a starvation diet is the destruction of people's metabolic rate and people not even understanding the basic concept that a lot of people, especially if they've gone through these like big bouts of ups and downs and crash diets, that it actually would benefit them to actually start eating more food to ramp up their metabolic rate before they started. And sometimes like people look at me like I'm crazy. It's like I should eat more food, and but
it actually happens with a fair few CrossFitters
Yeah.
that I talk to, like especially female CrossFitters. It's like they'll be training, but they're training because they want to get stronger. But also, most females I talk to have some form of aesthetic goal at the same time, and like they
Big booty.
Yeah, exactly. Big booty, look good in a bikini, right? So what happens is, CrossFit's a very demanding sport for your body, and if you're not fueling themselves, obviously they'll stop dropping fat because your body goes into this like protective mode. So like a lot of people that I'll start, programming nutrition or helping them with the training, like I'll bump up their diet by like 600-700 calories a day straight away, and then they'll start losing body fat, and they're like, how did you do this? I was like, well, like being on a nutrition plan is a stress. And, you know, like we're looking at our everyday life, we're so much in a sympathetic state rather than a parasympathetic state. You know, you got, you know, stress from our phones, stress from our relationships, stress from training. And when we're looking at like CrossFit, it's like a lot of training. Some people doing like 2 a day, 3 a days.
Yeah.
So you have so much stress from like, you know, blue light at night from your laptop, and so you're not sleeping properly, so you're not recovering. You got stress from like your emails and notifications. You got so much stress, and then you add nutrition stress to that as well, because dieting is a stress. It's like your body goes into this sympathetic state, which is gonna, you know, increase ghrelin, decrease leptin. So all of a sudden you're hungry all the time because ghrelin starts pulsing more, and then leptin is like you never get full, and then you start going like, what's wrong with me? And you're still you have to try and use willpower to try and not eat as much. And it's like you just take that one stressor away and give someone more food. They can start performing at a higher rate. They can start getting stronger because they're adequately eating enough food to recover. And they're like, oh wow, now I'm losing fat. It's like, because you're actually eating.
This is I mean, I think this is, I mean, probably an easy way to get people to jump on board is be like, I'm going to help you lose weight and make you eat more food, and just be like, oh my god, this is amazing.
Yeah, man. It's crazy. I think, you know, because people have so much stress in this day and age, I think that is probably one of the biggest things that you need to handle before you handle nutritional training. I think you have to go, hey, what's going on with your sleep and what's going on with stress? Don't even worry about training right now. Let's look after those two things for the first like 7 days, because if you can't handle your stress and your sleep, there's no way you can follow my nutrition plan, because like your neurotransmitters aren't going to be, you know, working. Your hormones, as far as like when you're looking at ghrelin and leptin, aren't going to be working. You probably estrogen, testosterone are pretty fucked up as well, or pretty stuffed up as well.
I mean, I've talked about this in a couple other podcasts with regards to like people wanting to be so easy, like they want to make the process so easy and comfortable that they're willing to take the shortcuts, and shortcuts nowadays ends up being like you take a pill, or people don't understand that it could be just as simple as like you need to get more sleep, or you need to just shut off your phone, or
you need to meditate.
You need to meditate, and you're maybe you got all these stressors in your life, and they're always thinking about what can I do to handle these stressful situations, but not even realizing that they can actually take maybe some of these stresses out of their life and attack it from a different perspective.
Well, when you're so much in a sympathetic state, right, you find it hard to have like muscle protein synthesis, right? And you go into more so muscle protein breakdown. So then you're breaking down your lean muscle mass instead of, you know, growing lean muscle mass, which means again you're not recovering, which means again you can't gain lean muscle and you can't drop fat. And you're like, what's wrong with me? And it's like, well, you just need to breathe. Like that's probably what's wrong with you.
I mean, you find that so many people are just super tense all the time. So for yourself, like when you're making your transition from former athlete to trainer to business owner, I mean, even starting your first gym, like there's got to be massive stresses throughout that whole process. I mean, what were some of the things that you tried that didn't work, and maybe things that you do now is still like that helps you?
Yeah, man, I tried like monophasic sleeping. You ever heard what that is? It's like you sleep 20 minutes every 4 hours and you don't have a nighttime. It's just every 20.
Oh, you're doing this?
Yeah, no, I used to.
Oh, you used to?
I did it for like a month.
I remember there was...
Snoop did it.
Snoop Dogg. That's okay. So 20. Did he get this idea like 420? Is it every 4 hours he sleeps 20 minutes?
Yeah. So every 4 hours you sleep 20 minutes. You don't have a nighttime, and it's like I did it for a little while, and then I started like losing what day it was. I'd miss a 20-minute window, so I'd be like 8 hours and then 20 minutes, and and then it got to a point where I was like, I just passed out. And like, where's TJ? He's not on social media. He must be dead. And I was like, no, I just like collapsed from exhaustion. I think like back in the day, man, because it's like these days with marketing and stuff like that, it's a lot easier as a business owner, like with Facebook ads and Instagram ads and things like that. And you can build landing pages in like 2 seconds with like different softwares. So getting yourself out there is a lot easier. Yes, there's more competition, but there's not more competition in the 1% of mastery. So if you're good at what you do, there's still not more competition.
Right.
There's just a lot of people in the lower end of the competition.
Yeah, because the barrier to entry is a lot lower.
Yeah.
I mean, think about Bali and how many yoga certifications are given out every month, like thousands, and that's just Bali.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people at the. I mean, but this is also with regards to like getting a bachelor's degree now. Like, it's not worth as much as it used to be. Now it's like bare minimum in America is like you have to have a master's, and then even then it's just that's not even enough. So where
It's pretty crazy, man.
Yeah.
So I think,
But it makes more sense. Like, I mean, higher performers, like you're still going to be able to.
high performers still high perform, right?
Yeah.
I think just the bar's slightly raised. So I tried the whole monophasic sleeping thing. That didn't work. I had to have a shift, to be honest. Like, I shifted my identity from, I was like identified as a business person for a while. I put on a little bit of weight. So I was like kind of like one of those fat trainers. So I was like, but I really didn't. I had my first child. I probably ate sympathy.
You had the child.
Yeah, I had a child.
Yeah.
No, So I was the first man to have a baby. No, and I was like, we had our first kid, and like Liv was pregnant, so I'm gonna say I sympathy ate with her.
Yeah. That happens quite a lot. Yeah.
With males and females, it's like, for me, I just, I guess you're not sleeping as much. Your willpower's down, and I identified as a business owner. And I think you say, like, a lot of times you start to justify things. So the stories you tell yourself, it's like, I'm tired, I'm busy. You start, like, your clients could be, it's like, they're tired, they're busy, so they will take poor nutrition choices.
Yeah.
So instead I had to, like, shift my identity back as, like, no, I'm a health entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So, like, that's what I identify as now. It's like, no, I'm a health entrepreneur. So as a health entrepreneur, what are my standards? Because as a business owner, what are the current standards as a business owner? Well, most business owners are fat, overweight, stressed, and have shit relationships.
Usually.
So it's like, but everything's stereotyping, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to be the best health entrepreneur out there, that's like, okay, cool. You need to be, living those standards as the best health entrepreneur out there. So I think that's a big thing.
There's a lot of people. I mean, not even with regards to just health, but people that are entrepreneurs in a particular industry or doing things that don't align with what their actual values and principles are. And it's easy to see with regards to health professionals, like if someone's like super fat and they're trying to tell you to lose weight, well, it's kind of hard to believe that kind of person. They might have the best plan or program or be able to get results, but I mean, if they can't actually apply what they're saying to their own lives, it's hard to follow.
It's hard to listen to them, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you can get there if you're an overweight trainer, if you're like the smartest in the world. But even if you're a mediocre trainer and you look really good, then you can get there.
Yeah. But I mean, this goes to, I mean, perception is not always reality. I mean, you can still have someone who's like looks really good and just be dumb as bricks.
As hell, right?
Yeah. I think too, like with regards to aesthetics and way people look, people often assume that they're really good coaches. We get with the whole social media stuff now. Also too, people assume that just because someone has like 20 different certifications that they're really good. So if we think about these two things that not really like necessarily good indicators of what is a good coach, what would be something that people can like how would you distinguish yourself as a coach, as a quality coach, and then how would clients be able to recognize what is a quality coach?
I think like for me, like we have like 100 coaches that work for us. So, it's trying to find people who are avid learners. If people have a thirst for knowledge, I think that is one thing that we like. You want to be always, if they say it takes about 250 books to get to the top 1% of your craft in mastery.
Yeah.
So if you read
coloring pop-up books,
yeah, exactly, that's what you want, right? But like if you're reading like a book a week for 5 years, like you get like 250 books deep, then you know that craft. Like you should know it like back to front, like 250 books deep. Like you are like one of the world's smartest trainers. But you have to then apply that knowledge. So it's like there's knowledge and then there's applied knowledge. And then there's understanding emotional intelligence. I think it's you have to combine knowledge with application of that knowledge. So it's like, okay, cool, you know what a nutrition plan is, but it's like, okay, how do you apply it to Sally who's 32 with 3 kids? And it's not just the best nutrition plan, it's the best nutrition plan for Sally,
right?
But then you need to have the emotional intelligence that when Sally walks in the room, you can see if she's had a hard night last night with her kids, and tell her, hey, Sally, I can see you essentially have had a hard night. We're going to go from, instead of like doing a 5x5 at like 65%, we're going to switch it up and we're going to shift to more volume today, because you need to like not hit your central nervous system as much as you are right now.
I think the emotional intelligence part is definitely a big missing component to most trainers. You know, like they'll write up they'll write up the most amazing customized program for 12 weeks and expect the client to follow it every single day without any relevance or any thought into how they feel each day. You know, even if they were to, I don't know, maybe they just had a newborn kid and they're just like only had 30 minutes of sleep last night and they're just shot. You know, you can't really expect them to perform at the same level. And the coach's responsibility, and this is why, like, sometimes I think the word coaches is kind of misplaced quite a bit, is that, you know, coaches are essentially wanting to take into consideration all these different variables and make adjustments to each member, each client, each athlete, depending on the variables, you know. And that's why, like, for us, you know, I teach even teaching coaches to ask, you know, how do you feel, and then gaining information from that, you know. I think that's
I think there's a lot of things that we don't ask. Like, instead we try and shove things in people's life instead of take things out of their life. It's a lot easier to take something out of someone's life than shove new stuff in. It's like, instead of giving them more things to do, just give them a not to do list. It's like, okay, how many chocolate bars do you eat in a week? 17. Let's not do that. It's like, how many bottles of wine you drink in a week? 5. Okay, let's have one.
A bowl of wine?
Bottle of wine.
Bottle of wine. They said a bowl of wine.
Well, you could have a bowl as well. It's like an excessive. It's like three bottles in a bowl. But like, when you look at this, it's like, I think we need to start taking things out of people's lives. I think it's like, what is it? It's like 600 million obese people or something like that, and there's like 2 billion overweight people, and then there's a new category now. There's over fat, and then there's normal.
Well, I remember too, I don't remember when it happened, but there was definitely a point where like I was like always a size medium shirt, and then just, I don't know, it almost seemed like out of nowhere where like the sizes of the shirts changed. And I heard that, I may have to look this up, but I heard that in America, they actually like changed the labeling of this. Because if you get a large shirt in Asia, it's different than a large shirt in America. And I heard that they kind of did this so that people wouldn't feel bad about themselves.
Really?
Right, yeah, because like you could get, because if I got a large shirt in Asia and it doesn't fit me, but I'm like, oh, I'm a large, it's like, no, you're an extra large. You're actually much bigger than what, because like the standard of normal is so different. Yeah.
But it's interesting, man. I think environment matters most, and that's what I tell my clients. And I think this is another thing that coaches don't do enough. So it's like, what is your environment? And if you want to change your life, you have to change your environment. So when we're looking at this, it's like, you know, I would tell most people, and anyone listening to this right now, it's like, do you shop at the same grocery store like 90% of the time? And whenever I do a seminar, people will like, you know, everyone puts their hand. I say, yeah, I do, because it's familiar, right? So it's like, okay, close your eyes. You know, put your hand up if you know exactly where the chocolate bars are in that. Everyone puts their hand up because they know exactly where they are. So it's like, well, maybe you just need to change grocery stores. And what you need to do is, when you walk into this new grocery store, I want you to create a new identity. My identity now is that of the healthiest person in my community, or the healthiest person in my family. And, you know, the healthiest person in my family or in my community or in this state doesn't eat chocolate bars. That's not what they eat. And it's not saying chocolate bars are bad, but in this new grocery store, you don't buy them here. And that's where you shop now. Because you create a new environment. All of a sudden, sometimes when we create new environments, so I tell people, it's like, no, just all you can do is shop at farmers markets for the next 12 weeks. It's like, that's the only place you can shop. And then if they're only shopping there, it's harder for them to binge on the stuff they're used to binging on. Because what happens is, when people are stressed, they fall back into the worst version of themselves. And that's normally the one that tries to give themselves comfort through food, and that's why they're overweight. People try and, you know, sedate their life with alcohol and food and drugs and all that sort of stuff, right? So I think changing their environment as far as where they shop, changing their environment as far as where they train, changing their environment. It's like, I think if you live within like 50 kilometers of a friend who's obese, you are 51% more likely to be obese as well. So it's like changing your friends. Like lose one fat friend and gain one fit friend.
Yeah, the idea of being the average of the people that you surround yourself with, I think, but for some people it can be quite difficult because if let's say they've had high school friends and friends who are still in the same mentality as when they were in high school and are not actually growing, but you're like best friends. How do you deal with people being like, I can't just cut this person out?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Like, I think you got to be ruthless, right? You only have one life.
Yeah.
But I would also be honest. So before you cut them out, like, and this is okay. Like, I've gone through so many friendship groups, right? Like, in my life. And so I've got a couple of mates I've been friends with since I'm 5 still.
Yeah.
And they chose to grow.
Yeah.
And it's not that, like, I can't be friends with these people. It's like, no, you're just going to find new friends.
Yeah.
And you only have time as an adult for so many friends as well. So I want to fill my life with people who aren't complaining. Fill my life with people who are growing, people who inspire me. Yeah. Like, you want to have friends, which is like, you were the worst of the 5 friends. Yeah. So they're like, all of a sudden you rise to the top with them, and then all of a sudden your life feels so much better. You feel so much happy within yourself because human beings are happiest when they're striving towards targets or goals.
Yeah.
And if you're and like, that's the other problem with friends who aren't doing the best. What happens is you're like, you did something great. You had a massive achievement. Then you go catch up with your friend and they've got this shit life. You don't even want to tell them that. You can't even say that, oh, this is what happened, because you feel like, oh, I'm going to make them feel bad. Yeah. It's like, why do you want friends like that?
It's so weird with like those kinds of things. Sometimes there could be a fine line between like just telling someone about what an experience you had in your life and then people interpreting that as you bragging about something that's happened in your life. But then if you're just experiencing life and you're just doing your normal thing and your normal thing just happens to be amazing, why do you have to feel bad? Yeah. Expressing that.
But do you think it's funny in society that we're afraid to tell our friends or some people the great stuff that happens, but if then they say they had a bad day, we always want to one up their bad day. They're like, I had a bad day. It's like, this normally society is like, oh, I had a bad day. It's like, you had a bad day, you should hear my day. My day was even worse.
Yeah.
And we always have to try and one up their bad day to make them feel better.
Yeah.
But then we don't want to tell them anything good in our life because we don't want to make them feel bad. So we're constantly trying to project on them to make them feel good instead of like worrying about ourselves. Yeah. And I think if we worried about it, it's not being selfish, but it's worrying about ourselves as far as like, if something good happens in your life, like, awesome. If something bad happens in someone else's life, you don't have to one up them. Yeah. You can go, that sucks. Like, that's okay. Like, you don't need to have anything else than that.
Yeah, I mean, but I think too, I've talked with because some of our members are from Russia and Ukraine, and their perspective on like on truth telling and like not playing it PC is so different than like in the States. Right. It's like in America, we would be so careful about the other persons. We're so careful not to offend somebody, but the basic idea of like expressing an opinion, you can't not offend somebody, and to always be on a constant process. I mean, I think it's stressful just trying to play to other people's feelings all the time.
Yeah.
And the idea that if your friend is actually being an asshole, like, are you benefiting them by just playing along with how they behave, or would you actually benefit them by telling them that they're being an asshole?
Exactly.
So I think that too, like, if you want to maintain some of these relationships that you feel like maybe might be a negative drag on you, either leave them or tell them and try to help them and bring them with you.
Yeah, I'll be like, hey Ian, like, I've got some massive goals, and I sat here and I projected out where I can be in the next 5 years if I keep doing what I'm doing. And I've got these new standards that I'm trying to live by because I want more from life. And I don't want to live mediocrity. I want to live excellence. And, for us in our conversations, I feel sometimes, you're complaining a bit too much. And I feel like you can actually achieve more in life as well.
Yeah.
So would you like to come on this journey with me over the next 5 years? Let's not complain. Let's grow. And let's try and get as far as we can in life and try and find out what our potential is, our unlimited potential.
Yeah.
If you want to come on this journey, awesome. If you don't, then like, yeah, man, I'll catch up with you in a couple of years. And that's okay.
Yeah, man, it sounds So simple. It sounds. I mean, it sounds ruthless to an extent, but it's so simple too. Yeah, I mean, one of the things about this, and I always tell people about starting Nirvana Strength, was that it was a very selfish endeavor because I wanted to just create the most amazing gym that I could train at. I wanted to surround myself, create this environment that attracted the highest level performing athletes and coaches, so that I was just around them all the time. I have all these like a mentorship group for men, and then these different practitioners. Like this podcast is not even for you guys. This is for me, right? So I get to have like these high level conversations with practitioners from all different fields, and it just continues to elevate me because, I mean, Travis, you're a pretty awesome dude, like you got a lot of stuff going on for you, and obviously there's going to be obstacles that everybody's going to be dealing with, but you actually deal with this stuff, instead of just complaining about stuff. And of course we can all complain about things happening in life, but there's obviously a big difference between just sitting in your own like shit and not getting out of it. Not getting out of it and actually dealing with the problems that you have.
It's funny, man. It's like, there's this process called WOOP, which is like wish, outcome, obstacle, plan. So it's like you have this wish, like where do I want to be in like a year or 5 years? And it's like, okay, what outcome intrinsically will that give me? So that will give me more confidence. That will let me be able to serve at a higher basis and all the rest of it. And it's like, what obstacles am I going to face along the way to this? Because everyone's going to achieve obstacles, right? So it's like, well, maybe my environment of friendship group, that's an obstacle. Okay, I'm going to deal with that first. I need a plan to overcome that. We just had that conversation. Okay, what's my next obstacle? And if you outline all these obstacles that you're going to face, this is what's like rubbing up your goals against reality. And that what happens is when you rub your goals up against reality and look at the obstacles that are going to be in front of you, and then you create a plan, it increases hope. And an entrepreneur, a business owner, all they can rely on is hope that tomorrow will be better than today. Like that's our lifeblood. And for us, a leader or a business owner that can give hope to his employees or her employees that tomorrow is going to be better than today. They get a stat. Leaders that give hope have 64% engagement from their employees. Leaders who don't deliver hope have 1% engagement. 1% engagement. That's 63% difference engagement just because you thought that tomorrow is better than today, and you could actually convey that and articulate that to your team and to your tribe. Now, imagine if you had that same level of hope through your marketing to your prospects. And like now you're giving them hope that their life's going to be better, because everything is leadership. And leadership is inspiring people, right? But it's inspiring people, helping them understand, like, oh, this is how you can do it, and you can inspire via pace setting and showing them. But like leadership and inspiration is also understanding when to have the conversation where it's like, man, enough's enough, stop being an idiot. Like, it's time to step up to the plate. And you can do that via one-to-many or one-to-one. And, leadership in a friendship group is knowing when to have those conversations with your friends. And I was like, man, like, this is our conversation. Enough's enough with your life. You're meant for more. I'm meant for more. I'm going there. Do you want to come? You don't have to. I don't really mind.
Do you have anybody particular in your life now where you actively, like, seek out their critical feedback, their criticism, to kind of look at your life from an outsider's perspective and see if there's things that could be worked on? Or
honestly, man, I don't actually at the moment. We have it in our business, like we have Feedback Fridays in our business, and every single Friday. Feedback Fridays. So inside our business, man, every Friday, like, we have open feedback in each of the gyms and then each in the management team where it's like unemotional feedback where it's like, hey, man, like, this is what happened this week. I just want to give you some feedback. It's like not sandwiching feedback. I'm not trying to, make people feel happy. It's like, well, no, this is feedback to become better as a business and better as a person. It's like, Ian, I saw you did this. Can you not do this again? Because of this is how I interpreted it. Is that okay? You're like, okay, cool, I'll take that on. Because through feedback, we can fall forwards. Without feedback, we can never. It's like doing a handstand. You need to know where your feet are, right? Like doing anything in life is feedback. You need to know how heavy is the weight on your back. It's like, okay, that's light. Let's progressively overload now. It's like, that's feedback. There's an actual stimulus to it. So with business, you need to have feedback because sometimes there's not a visual stimulus except the money in the bank. It's
Yeah.
like if there's no money in the bank, clearly like that's your feedback. You need to become better.
Yeah.
But to optimize your team and leadership, you need to have feedback which is open and people feel safe to give feedback as well. I think it's providing a element of safety that their feedback is welcome and warranted. And whenever someone starts with us as an employee, like have an initial call with them, and it's like, so I open up the lines of communication. I'm like, hey man, like, I just want to let you know, like, what's your dreams over the next year? What would this year be a success to you? And I was like, feedback, we have a hierarchy in our culture, but feedback is flat. So I want you to give me as much feedback as possible as this company, because I need a flat culture as far as feedback, and it allows them to open up the chain of communication from me to them, so we can optimize as a company.
Yeah, I think, but even putting in the system, or putting in, I mean, even just as simple as this Feedback Friday, right? Like, I mean, there's a lot of companies that don't take like the proactive stance of trying to deal with problems before they become a problem. I mean, the idea that if you're waiting until you don't have any more money in the bank, I mean, by that point it's probably too late, or it's getting you're going to be in bad shape. But being, and this is, I guess, the idea too with regards to like health, nutrition, or any part of life, is that if you can kind of preemptively start dealing with these issues when they're, small and tiny, as opposed to waiting until you're on your deathbed. It might be a better way to approach things.
That's what I tell people as well. It's like the eulogy test, right? So some people's like, you want to live, like I said before, it's like what man can be, man must be, right? Like, but people are like, what can I be? And that's like the next question. I'm like, well, there's two ways to look at this. It's like the eulogy test. It's like, so you were dead. You are inside your coffin. It's like, okay, how many people turned up to your funeral? I want you to pretend you're sitting there. Like, did you have 10 people? Did you have 5? Do you have 1,000? Like, how many people turned up? And then I want you to, like, what did they say about you? Were you inspirational? Did you comfort them? Did you, what did you do? Did you, provide to your community? Whether you're the healthiest person that they know, were you the most caring person that they know? It's like, what attributes, what characteristics do you want to define you as a human being on this earth? And then, okay, that's the best version of yourself. It's normally just your virtues and your character traits.
Normally, I mean, it would be pretty sad if everybody, or if you had a handful of people showed up and all they could just say was like, "Oh yeah, he had a lot of money."
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like,
well, he worked hard.
He must have been working hard. I never saw him.
Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest things. And then a lot of people, like, they get so one-sided, they don't look after their body, and then they don't look after their relationships, and they don't look after themselves, like, spiritually either. And that's like, if you have God or whatever, it's like, that's up to you. It's like, for me, it's like spiritually one with myself. Like, like I feel good within my own brain. And I think so many of us need to go, okay, cool. What is like, journal what else you could achieve in the next 5 years. If I could give you a wand and I can make it happen, and it is possible, and it's impossible to fail, cool. That's what it is. And it's like, what's that person now?
Do you, with regards to like goaling, like let's say setting like a 5-year goal or 5-year plan or whatever like that, do you find that sometimes people can take it too far? Like they're so set on this 5-year goal that they actually can hinder progress in other ways that they didn't know was available to them. So like, if someone was just like, all right, I'm going to do this in 5 years, but in the process of going towards this goal, they actually discover that maybe their passion is not actually what it was, but they're like, oh, I got to do this 5-year goal. I got to hit this 5 years. How do you set people up with regards to maybe, so like the war of life, like the idea of you set a battle plan for the things that you want to happen and things you want to accomplish, but knowing that you need to be able to adapt to the obstacles that come up in life. Like, who knows, maybe your dog dies tomorrow and you're
everything goes
you're sad, everything goes downhill. I don't know, you start eating chocolate and who knows what, but
you have to deal with it. I know, man. Like, I definitely understand what you're saying. Like, I think you have to have a plan B, plan C. And it's not like, okay, if this gym thing doesn't work, I'm going to do this. It's like, no, it's like a plan B, plan C on how this gym thing is going to work. But like, I think for so many of us, we need to find out what our genius is.
Yeah.
Like, what's your genius task? Like, what do you love to do? And I think if you truly find out, and you can actually ask yourself, like, what you love to do, and then you go after that for the next 10 years, or even go for 3 years, and it's like, you know what? I don't love this. Okay, cool. Just change it. Like, that's fine.
That's a tough one, right? Some
Yeah.
people they set their identity to being like, I'm this, and I have to be this, and it's like it could fail, and then it's like, well, maybe
But
you
now
should.
you're a failure.
Yeah, maybe you should just change it. Yeah, maybe you were just because sometimes too it's like you can have. Do you actually have a passion for it, or do you just like it at that point in time? You know, I always thought I was going to start a bar because I just really like the drinking and nightlife, and now I'm just like I would never want to actually do that.
But that happens with a lot of CrossFit owners, right?
Yeah,
It's like,
CrossFit owners do this a lot.
man. It's like, oh, I did CrossFit. I love CrossFit. I'm going to open up a box.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, I did not want to do this. But that happens a lot, man. And like, because they love a sport, that doesn't mean you need to own a business of the sport or of health and fitness.
And then they end up getting stuck.
Yeah. Because now they've got this lease, they've left their job, and they're getting paid less than they would if they went and worked like at Macca's, which is so hard, man. Like it's like only 4% of business owners last 10 years, and only 2% of business owners ever make $1 million turnover a year. It's pretty crazy. So like when we look at those stats, it's like it's probably pretty silly to be a business owner. It's okay to work for someone.
Yeah.
Like it's completely okay. You don't have to work for yourself. But if you do work for yourself, make sure you're passionate about it.
Yeah.
Because like if you've gone all in and you open a business, that's how you do get stuck. You're like, oh, I hate this now.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, you should have thought that before you started a business.
Yeah, well, that's good. I don't hate myself yet.
Okay,
so,
good.
Yeah.
You're in the right path then. You're right path.
Yeah, but I do. There is a part of that too that I think about with regards to cutting your losses. There's, like let's say if you did if you signed up for a 200-hour yoga certification, it's a month-long process.
Yeah.
But maybe you're 3 days into it and you realize like you just made a horrible mistake. But I think it's really hard for people to not only one, if they actually recognize that they made a mistake and they're like, oh man, I spent all this money, to just cut their losses and just be like, I'm not going to do this anymore.
Of course it is.
But most people would just go through the process. They'll be like, I'm just going to stick it out for this month because I already paid for it.
Yeah,
they're losing all that
man.
time.
Yeah, but there's two things, right? It's like, one, are you not doing it because it's making you uncomfortable, or you're not doing it because you don't like?
Sure.
Yeah,
Difficult to
recognize, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, this is making me uncomfortable. Cool. Everything in life that is great is uncomfortable, and you have to cross the bridge of fear to get there.
Yeah.
So you have to distinguish between I don't want to do this because I actually don't like this, and I don't want to do this because this is uncomfortable. And if it's because you don't like this, well, money is like infinite, okay? Time is finite.
Yeah.
So you can always get more money. You can never get more time. So I would cut my losses as fast as I possibly could, and like, cool. I lost 5,000. I lost 10,000. I lost 100K. Like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
I was like, like I can never get back more time. If I was away from my kids for a month to do this yoga course, and I was there for like 3 days, and I don't like it, I was like, I wouldn't even care if I spent like $1 million. I don't care. I'm going home. Send my kids, because like I would have lost 27 days on this earth with my sons.
Like, man, like, but people do this. The yoga thing is just an example, but they do this with their business, right? Like they'll run a business for a year and be like, oh my god, I invested so much money. I guess I just got to stick it out for another 10 years. Yeah, and then they lose 10 years.
And then it's like, okay, cool. I haven't seen my kids grow up.
Yeah.
Like that happens, man.
Yeah, no, it's big, man.
But it's the same thing. It's like people are like, oh, I don't have time for the gym. Yeah. Do you know, like they another study like they did was like, I think it was like working out for 25 minutes a day for, it was like 3 years, adds 3 years to your life. And it's like, oh, I don't have time to work out. It's like, what, you don't have time to live longer? Like, you don't want another 3 years?
Right. But this goes back to the whole mindset thing, like people are just so, the instant gratification, the way that things are now, and not focusing on health, People, you find a lot of people too, like they'll usually only get to the point where, for us, we do a lot with prehabilitation and trying to get people to deal with small issues before they become a problem where they have to get surgery. You find that people need a traumatic experience of some kind to get super serious about their health.
Yeah, I think what the bad thing is, man, like being 15 kilos overweight is a traumatic experience. Except they don't think it's traumatic because it happened over 15 years.
Yeah.
but like, if I say these to people all the time, right? Imagine you had abs right now, okay, and I go bang, and I just put 20 kilos of weight on you. I just put 40 pounds on you.
Yeah.
How much would you pay to drop the 40 pounds now?
Yeah.
It's like you'd pay 10,000. You get a loan out for 20K to drop it right now. If I could take it off you right now and give you the abs back, of course you would. But then you say you can't afford health and fitness. One, because you're so familiar with living mediocrity and having such a bad body and such bad energy that you think this is what life is.
Well,
Like,
it becomes
this
normal.
is not life.
It
No,
becomes
exactly,
normal.
right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
Tony Robbins talks about like this, right? Like you buy this brand new car and you park away from other cars and you don't want to get scratched, and 6 months later you get a scratch on your car. And then 12 months later you have like 3-4 scratches, and then 18 months it's just a car. And it's like the same thing as your body, right? Like you get this body you're given, and like all of a sudden you in high school, like you were the athlete, you're feeling great, and then a couple of years later you put on like 10 pounds, and then like a couple of years later you put on another 10 pounds, and then in your mid-30s and you're like 40 pounds overweight, and it's just a body and you're not an athlete anymore. And your familiarity of life is mediocrity. You don't know what even it's like to have abs anymore. You don't even know what it's like to essentially feel good anymore. It's just what your life is, and you don't even have the pain. That's the problem. You have no pain because it took so long to get there.
Yeah.
And it's like, because if I gave you 40 pounds overnight, that's massive pain. You're like, you wake up, you're like, holy hell, like what just happened to me?
Yeah.
But because it took like 15 years, you have no pain that's like essentially attributed to that weight gain.
Yeah.
So you're not walking through hell enough to get out of it.
Yeah.
And so it's not traumatizing enough.
Yeah, the idea that people are, yeah, it sucks that it takes so long for people to actually understand like what are the negative effects of their lifestyle, because it takes some people 10, 15, 20, 30 years. But this is where I think as health professionals, and this is I think one of the biggest problems that I have generally with the fitness industry is that there is no focus on the emotional intelligence part of the process, or the just plain psychological part of the process. Like trainers and coaches are just thinking it's just all right, program and this perfect nutrition, and they don't actually help people even realize that there is a problem, right?
But they don't even say, hey, so what do you do on the weekends, Ian? And Ian might go, well, I go to the movies most weekends, and then on Saturdays I go with my mates. Okay, then you have to ask again, okay, what do you do, what movies you watch, and what do you eat at the movies? Oh, I eat a choc top, and I eat like this. It's like, is it possible for you to go to the movies and not eat that? No. Okay, you're not allowed to go to the movies anymore. Okay? You're not. It's like, because like, but this is the truth, man. Like, if people have these like habitual things that are ingrained into their life, right? You can't change that. Like that's who they are. To go to the movies and not have a choc top and Maltesers and popcorn, like is impossible for them. Okay, unless you consciously go, man, like after the movies on Friday, I want you to send me a photo of yourself going like with like a peace sign or something saying I didn't eat chocolate. And so then like I'm your conscious reminder that you're not allowed to do this. And I think unless you can actually have a conversation, it's like, man, what do you not have to do anymore? And then ask them, like, what are you doing Saturday? I'll go out for beers. And say, okay, man, like, like, do you want to get this body slower or faster? We can still have beers, like we can, but if you want to get in 12 weeks, then you can't have beers. Like, oh, you need to have less beers. And I think then it's going on to this next moment, which is like, I like to give people limits. It's like an upper limit and a lower limit. So it's like when we're looking at training, right? You need to train 4 days a week, okay? I like people to train 7 days a week, but I like them to train like 4 days a week in a sympathetic state, and 3 days a week in a parasympathetic state. So do a float, do some meditation, like, so it's like they are training every single day of their life. Because then I want people habitually
I think
to feel like they're training.
Training too, it's encompassing of doing recovery stuff and doing meditation. And I think when we say training, people just say it's like, oh, it's got to do some CrossFit workout every day. But
it's not, man.
Yeah.
But if we can educate people, when you have a client, because a habit, okay, is something that we repeatedly do. Your life will never change until you change something you do daily.
Right.
Okay, so if you tell them, okay, I need you to train every day. Now, 4 days of the week, it's going to be like, it's our sympathetic energy system. Essentially, sympathetic energy system, we're going to be doing a workout. You can do that in the gym with me, or you're going to do it at home, wherever you are.
Yeah.
Like, there's 4 days a week of working out. And there must be these 3 days a week where we do another energy system. Now, this is going to allow you to recover. It's going to decrease your stress. It's going to make you feel better about yourself. You'll probably be less hungry because you do that, because you're looking after your stress levels. You're going to feel amazing because you do it. Now, this is so important because these two together, they're the yin and the yang. Okay? So they're just as important. These other days, you know, you can meditation, man, like when I was saying before, it's like upper limit, lower limit. It's like, yeah, you train every day, but some days training might be 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Some days training might be like 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay? So when I look at this, it's like, okay, the days that you have 10 minutes, do meditation. The days that you have 60 minutes, go to the gym. So it's like, I don't care when you go to the gym, just do it 4 days of the week that you have the 60 minutes. And if you wake up today and, you know, something hits the fan and you actually don't have the 60 minutes, don't like go, oh, stuff it and like start overeating because your plan's gone to hell.
Yeah.
It's like, no, choose the 10-minute meditation today and you still trained.
Yeah.
So then people still feel like they had a win. Because people need to feel like they're winning. People need to feel momentum. It's like Newton's first law, right? Like when something is in motion, it will more likely stay in motion.
Yeah.
So if you can get people in motion and give them a way to gamify it, to stay in motion. Jerry Seinfeld wrote this whole thing. It's like the Seinfeld strategy. I just keep like pulling things out.
Great, man. That's awesome.
Jerry Seinfeld wrote this thing. It's called the
I love how
Seinfeld
you go
strategy.
from Newton to Jerry Seinfeld. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
But he's like, he did this thing. He wanted to become the world's best comedian or highest paid comedian, and he did, right?
Yeah.
But he had this huge board on his wall, and it had all the days of the year, and every day he'd had to write a joke, and he'd write a joke and put a big X on the day. Now, his whole goal was not to break the chain, okay? And his goal was to keep going, and his goal was to make the chain as long as he possibly can. And if he broke the chain, he could only ever break the chain 1 day in a row, okay? And if he broke the chain, he'd wake up the first thing the next morning. That would be the most important thing he did, right? And then his goal is to make the chain longer than the previous chain, right? And that's the Seinfeld strategy. And that's how you stay in motion using Newton's law.
Yeah.
So those two are linked together, and that's how you essentially get there. There's another book called like Superhuman by Habit, and I think that talks about that as well. And I think, you know, like looking at, you know, superhumans, it's looking at like Superman.
Yeah.
You know, his biggest thing was kryptonite, right? And we all have this kryptonite that we need to stay away from. So I think all of us need to find our kryptonite in our relationship, our kryptonite in our mindset, our kryptonite in our health, a kryptonite in our business. But kryptonites normally don't happen for like human beings with their body. Kryptonite is not like this big chunk. So you remember like Superman walked towards kryptonite when he got on it, basically passed out. But it's like for us, it's like kryptonite dust. Okay? So over 10 years, we're just slowly eating this kryptonite dust. And then one day we wake up and we're 40 pounds overweight and we're like, what just happened? And it's like, because you were overeating for like 10 years straight.
Did they have pixie sticks in Australia?
Man. Yeah.
For some
That's
reason.
100%
Yeah, there's pixie sticks. Yeah. If you had one pixie sticks every day on top of all your diet, I mean, you probably would gain like 20, 30 pounds.
Yeah, or even if you just had like if you didn't have it in your diet, but you had like 2 Cokes a day, right?
Yeah, the Coke thing.
That's crazy. And it's like, so sometimes it's like, again, when we're looking at habits, man, it's looking at what you're trying to get out of the habit as well.
Yeah.
So it's like, what are you missing in your life?
Yeah.
But sometimes it's something super simple, right, to do as well.
I think the idea of making things simple, right? And I kind of also think about the idea of inception, right? Where you just like you have the simplest form of whatever idea that will lead to really great results.
Yeah.
So even the basic idea of having a little bit of protein with every single meal. I mean, you don't have to really focus on losing 100 pounds if you actually like follow just basic things you could do every day. Even if it's one simple act, it'll eventually lead to you losing all that weight.
Yeah. But that's why I think people do overcomplicate it, right? We want instant gratification. We want to lose like 20 pounds in 5 weeks. Not like, okay, cool. If I just lost like half a pound a week or like like 250 grams a week, like cool. Like I'm crushing it, losing 2.5 kilos every 10 weeks. Great, that's cool. I lost 10 kilos a year. What about in 5 years? Because like I think people should start to look at things like in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Because the next 5 years are going to come and go anyway. Right? It's going to pass. So in the next 5 years, like you could have a $7 million business if you wanted. You could have like a body that's on Men's Health. You could have the best relationship in the world. Like 5 years is a long time, filled up with micro habits. Like even if you lost like 100 grams a week in the next 5 years, like you'll be at like whatever body fat you start, but you're going to be so lean. Like, and it's doing not huge things to get you there. And I think that's the problem.
I think, I mean, and you can apply this to more than just your health and your fitness, but I mean, other aspects of your life as well. What would be your kryptonite with regards to nutrition? Like what's your things like?
Me, chocolate, 100%, man. Like, chocolate is my biggest kryptonite. I keep it out of the house.
Like, if you have one piece, you just go
I'll
off.
I'll have a couple of blocks. I'm not having a family block. I'm having like 2 family blocks. But then I'm like, okay, cool. I had 2 family blocks now. Like, where's the ice cream?
What is a family block?
Like a big block of like chocolate, like a block of chocolate.
Okay.
I was like trying to make the hand signals right now.
Okay.
Like it's like, what is it? Like probably like 24 pieces of chocolate or something like that, little cubes. And I have like a couple of family blocks now, but like I feel like really bad because like the next day I feel like a bit off, and because I feel bad.
Do they just sell massive blocks?
Yeah. It's just big blocks. Just get big blocks of chocolate and just eat them. So I just started.
I think it's kind of funny. I mean, Australia, though there are like a ton of like super fit people, there's also a ton of like the extremes are crazy. Even in the States, right? You go to California, you find a lot of people tend to be quite lean, but then you go to Texas and it's just people are walking around with buckets tied around their head, like they're like a horse or something.
It's crazy, man. So, but I think that's the thing, man. Like, I think it's finding out your kryptonite, and it's like, don't have that stuff in your environment. And I think it's easy to do once you understand it. It doesn't mean I'll never have chocolate. It's like, but if I have chocolate, it's like, okay, cool. I'll be out, and I'll like when I'm out, and I've trained that day, because there's also a domino habit. Right. So for me, there's always a domino habit that affects every other habit. If I train on the day, I never eat like poorly. Okay, so there's my domino habit. Some people's domino habit is sleep. If they sleep bad, everything hits the fan.
The nutrition thing is, I definitely have this waterfall or domino effect. Like I do feel like if I were to have like a piece of chocolate after I've eaten my meal, it's not so bad. Like I can stop. But if I have a piece of chocolate on an empty stomach, I'm screwed. I just lose it. I lose control, and I'm like a fiend, right? Just like searching out like more chocolate. So I think for a lot of people, even if you do have bouts of like maybe you binged last night, like maybe try to identify what was that one thing that just set you off, and then avoid that. Well,
there's like, what is there? It's like the habits are cue, response, reward, right? That's the habit loop. So it's like, what's the cue that made you drink the bottle of wine? What's the cue that made you have the block of chocolate, right? So it's like some people, and then when we look at this, it's like Viktor Frankl was like a psychologist in the Holocaust, right? And he talked about, it's like, going through the worst things anyone could possibly go through. And he said, like, you can take anything away from me but my last of human freedoms, which is my ability to choose my own way in any given circumstance.
Right.
And that means it's like there's a stimulus and there's a response. And most of us never expand the gap between stimulus and response. Someone cuts you off in traffic, probably all the time in Bali, but generally, when say you're in Australia, someone cuts you off, like most people get really frustrated. The stimulus and response are so banked up next to each other, they're basically the same thing. And we didn't choose to expand the gap and choose a better quality emotion. So with this, if you can, and it's like, say you choose a emotion of like anger, you get frustrated, then you're taking that emotion inside into your next moment, which is like, I go into the office, then like Jenny looks at me, she says something, and I take it the wrong way because I'm in an angry state of mind, so I'm in a negative state, not a positive state. And then like we had a disagreement, and then I take this negative state into my next moment, which is like morning tea. Then I choose the muffin instead of the apple, whatever it is, right? Like, but like it's all started because you didn't have the moment to expand the gap between stimulus and response and go, what if I looked at this from a different perspective? Maybe that person cut me off in traffic because they were rushing to hospital because their kid was ill.
Yeah.
Would you still feel frustrated at them, or would you empathize with them and go, please cut me off?
Yeah.
I hope everything is okay.
No, it's I mean, that whole, scenario, I mean, the idea that it just basically starts off with someone cutting you off, and then the whole day just kind of like just
People's lives.
yeah, I mean, it happens all the time. But I think this part where like people are essentially like I don't know if it's a certain kind of mentality, but people's idea of like how you interpret, right, what other people's actions are. There was a Key and Peele had a sketch where they're like best friends and they're like text messaging each other, but they would actively like show like their emotional response to what the text message was.
Yeah.
And so like one guy is just like oh, fine, I'm gonna meet you at the bar, and the other guy's like, fine, what the fuck what does that mean?
I've
fine.
seen this one as well. Yeah, it's so good, man.
It's so funny,
and
it's
one
like,
has a tonality which is like, oh man, everything's good. The other one's reading it in the tonality is like he's angry at him, and so he's getting angry back.
Yeah.
But that's life.
Yeah.
We all have these different perspectives, but like if you look at that moment, because every moment, I tell all my coaches, you have a moment to change someone's life every 3 seconds. So it's like every conversation could change someone's moment. But if we look at this, expand that gap a little bit. So if we can go, all you need to do instead of choosing an emotion of frustration, I can choose an emotion of, empathy or anything like that. I can choose empathy, which makes me feel good because I'm like, are you okay? Like, I hope everything's fine. But all we have to do instead is go breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 2, and then break it out for like 4 or 6. And all of a sudden you've expanded the gap. Now you go, what is the best quality emotion that's going to make me the best version of myself in this moment? And then you choose that emotion. We actually choose our emotions, but most of us aren't consciously choosing the correct emotion right now because subconsciously we go to default.
yeah.
So I think the more society doesn't go to default right now, because most of us, again, we said like 60,000 thoughts a day and like 80% of them are negative.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy.
That's quite a lot.
So it's like, no, sorry, 60,000 thoughts a day. 80% of them I think is the same thoughts as yesterday.
Yeah.
And like 90% of those are negative or something like that. It's like crazy stats. And I'm like, well, our default response is a negative story, which pushes it into a negative state. So a negative state of mind. Nothing ever great in life happened from a negative state. Like nothing. So as much as you can possibly control that stimulus to response and stay in a positive state, you'll increase your quality of life. And you increase your quality of life, you're not going to choose poor decisions with health, poor decisions in relationships, poor decisions in like training. Like you're going to choose the best version.
And I think, this is kind of all this kind of falls into the line of like one is actually understanding the freedom of choice in every situation, and to understand that no matter, you might not be able to control all the different aspects of what happens in the situation. Like obviously you can't control somebody cutting you off, but no matter what the situation is, you have a choice in how you're going to respond to them and what how your emotional state's going to be in those situations. And of course, there's always some situations that are more emotionally compromising than others. So if you happen to lose a loved one, but how long you decide to grieve in it, and
you're the best way you can grieve.
Right. Like, yeah, and then actually deciding to take some action. I think that's for some people. Obviously everybody's going to deal with it in different ways, but. Even the basic idea of understanding that knowing what you can control and knowing what you can't, and then, obviously those things you can't control is kind of...
I think the Stoic philosophers say, like, you control 2 things, like your thoughts and your behaviors.
Yeah.
Right? And they say, like, in every day, like, essentially you're, like, shooting an arrow at the bullseye, right? At the target. But as soon as that arrow leaves that bow, you have no control.
Yeah.
The wind... Like the environment, you can't control it. But as long as you shoot that arrow as best as you can shoot an arrow,
right,
that's all you have to worry about.
Yeah.
So you can only as you try and plan your day and then like live with your best effort and attitude, things are going to happen and push you off target. And as long as you can go, that's fine. because I shot the arrow as best as I could.
Yeah.
And then the next day, all you do is you just try and shoot that arrow at that target again.
Yeah.
And that's how you live your life.
Yeah.
I think the more you can just go, I can only control me, and I can only control like my thoughts and my actions,
Yeah.
no one else.
Yeah.
I don't do things, and this is why relationships go bad, right? I'm going to give my wife a foot rub, so then she'll have sex with me, right? And then she doesn't have sex with me. I'm like, what? I gave you a foot rub. I was like, no, that's transactional.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like going to see a prostitute. It's like I paid you for this. Like it's like you like no, you give your wife a foot rub because it's a selfless act.
Yeah.
Because you love your wife. If then she wants to and chooses to have sex with you, that is then her choice.
Yeah.
But if she chooses not to, that is also her choice, and then that's not affecting you.
Yeah.
We need to do things instead of trying to look for reciprocity in the moment. We just need to do things out of love because we love the person. We just like want to help the person. I think that's I think it's like you control your emotions, you control your actions, and then everything else around you.
Yeah.
Like you can't
It's
control.
definitely it's definitely a no-win when you're trying to keep score in life like that. Like it just doesn't really work out, you know. Because I mean, if you're always expecting something in return, then you're not actually doing it for the benefit.
Right reasons.
You're not doing it for the right reason. Like if you're always expecting your like maybe you help your friend out and you just be like, I'm just waiting for that time he's gonna pay me back, and it's like how's that?
It's like exactly, man. Like it's so true. It's like don't hold on to resentment. It's like you like forgive everyone, but like you should forgive them. Say they did something bad to you. It's like okay, no worries, man. I forgive you, but you're not in my life anymore.
Yeah.
Like so, like don't hold on to the grudge.
Yeah.
Like we hold on to all these past grudges as well, which holds us back. Like and a lot of it with our parents. Like I think it happened with me. So it's like I just had to let it go. I was like, I'm gonna let it go, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna allow you to ever affect me again.
Yeah. But I think too, it also helps if you build up essentially, or if you you embody this, right? That you are always making decisions based off of your truthful, like your real reason of wanting to actually help people, you know. And then people they get a feel for it, right? And they know, and this gives you better a leniency to how people interpret what your intentions are and what you're wanting to do. You know, if people know that you have the best of intentions and you do something that is interpreted in a negative way, people will always come back to what your characteristics are and say, well, he acted in a way that I didn't really like, but I know that his true character is one of, you know, of true care, and he really actually wants to find the benefit. Maybe he just had a bad day, and they'll give you the benefit of the doubt, right? But if you're always acting like an asshole and then you try, even if you try to do something that's trying to help someone, they'll just think you're just being an ass.
It's like, oh, he's trying to get something.
Yeah. They always think there's some selfish reason for doing it.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's funny. I think like everyone has two versions of themselves. And with clients, I go, I want you to write down the hero's version of yourself on a day and the villain's version of yourself. It's like, what happens on the hero's version? Like, what time do you wake up? How do you act? What do you think? What do you do? And like, from moment to moment, from when you wake up to when you go to sleep. And the villain's version, like, do you press snooze? How do you act? Like, all those sort of things. I want you to play out the day. And then every single morning, I want you to have these two things laying next to your bed. And I want you to go, when you wake up, I want you to look at them and go, who am I going to choose to be today? Because now it's a conscious decision. And it's like, okay, I'm going to choose the hero's version of myself. And it's like every day you wake up, you look at it, it's like, okay, I'm going to choose the hero today.
Yeah.
Because that's how you become the best version of yourself. You're constantly choosing. The hero comes from like heros in Latin, and heros is like strength for two.
You're so full of knowledge, man. So much information.
But it's like it's strength for two. But say you have like a partner, it's okay. I have strength for me and strength for you, right? Like so, if I have like a partner and two kids, right? Say I don't need strength for two. Who do I need to have strength for 3 or 4? That's like say you have a company. It's like, who do I need to have like strength for 200? It's like, what do my virtues need to be? Like, how do I need to live to have strength for 200?
Right.
And all of a sudden, like, that's you going, I don't have time to have bad days.
Yeah.
Because I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for my partner. I'm doing this for my kids. I'm doing this for my company. Because, like, I am the hero for them because I want to lead my life to give them security.
And I do understand with a lot of people when they're thinking about making these transitions in life, right? So changing from a negative state of mind to a positive state of mind, like any transition is going to be difficult. if you're trying to lose weight or you're trying to change your behaviors, like, but at some point that behavior change, I mean, it becomes normal, and then once it's become normal, it's easy. And then once it's easy, it's like now you're just constantly living in a way that, that's in line with what your values and your principles are, which obviously ideally would be in line with whatever your passion is. And then, you can start living in a way that, it ends up leading to the best version of yourself without.
It doesn't have to be hard.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be hard.
It's like you just install one habit at a time. And it's like you get to a point, it's like, when you first ever start training, it's like unbearable. Okay?
Yeah.
Like he's like, oh my gosh, like this is so hard.
Yeah.
But it's like you push through unbearable, and then like, then all of a sudden, like after 90 days or after 190 days, like it's unstoppable, right? Because they aren't training because of an outcome, they're training because of how it makes them feel.
Yeah.
And they become this unstoppable person. It's like you couldn't pay them not to train.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure if I go, I'm going to give you like $200,000, you're not allowed to train for the next 2 years. You'd be like, no. Like
that's a long time. I thought you were gonna say like it was like 2 days. That'd be okay.
I'll do it for 2 days.
Yeah, I'll do that.
But your identity.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people are like, I won't train for 2 years because like for 200K, sweet.
Yeah.
It's like, but then you see these memes on like social media. Would you live in this house without this, or without like internet and your phone for a month for $1 million? It's like, please, man, I'll pay you to live in that house without internet. I was like, but like people's identity. I was like, no way, I wouldn't do that. I was like. So your identity, you have an addiction, okay, to your phone.
And I think the people, especially a lot of people, I think nowadays in the fitness industry, they train for not what like the positive benefits they're going to get for the long run, but it's funny because like with the fatigue-seeking nature of like how a lot of fitness is right now, it's like people train because they want to feel a certain way from that one training session, and the way they feel is from that hit of dopamine and adrenaline and what they get from the hormonal response they get. So then I'm thinking it's like, okay, they're basically like a drug addict, right? They're just training so they can just feel like this amazing feeling, and they don't even care about how they get it. They just want it.
They just want it.
They just want that feeling. The same, yeah.
So it's like you replacing one drug for another.
yeah, very much so, man.
But like, I guess for us, it's like then as coaches, making sure like, we're giving them the best quality of training for what they need. Yeah. So it's helping them understand like, whether you do HRV, so you're looking at like heart rate variability,
right.
And like, you're doing the test in the morning and you can see someone isn't recovered, and you give them a recovery protocol instead of like a strength protocol or a conditioning protocol. Like I think that's probably the best thing that any coach could do if you have the ability to do that. Yeah. Or there's even things like if you do HRV and then you have like MyZone inside your gym, right? These MyZone are these like heart rate monitors, and everyone's like heart rate's up on the screen. And it's like if you did your HRV today and you were like 50%, it's like you cannot go past like 60% heart rate. Yeah. You can do the workout, but you need to keep your intensity low. Yeah. Okay. And then you can still go through the workout, but you didn't need to go to like 90%. Yeah. But the problem is these people want to go 90% as well, and that's what's leading them to a more stressed state.
Well, because their main focus is getting this feeling, right? And if we can, but I mean, it's not that you can't always get this feeling, but it shouldn't be the main driving force. No. Like, so then otherwise you're just a coke addict.
Yeah, exactly. You're just a junkie. Junkie trying to get your next fix.
Yeah, funny. So where are you at now? Like, what's your next thing you're working on?
Man, like for me, like we have the gyms. So we have 15 gyms around Australia, and we have a business consulting thing that we're doing where we help like coaches make more money. And then that
sounds good.
Yeah, exactly. So we generally like help fit pros like and scale them to like $1 million. Like that's our thing. And then we also have a marketing agency which helps people get leads. And then we created this app, which is like one of the like passion things. It's like we created this software which is called Keystone, and it's for coaches to be able to have a better communication pathway.
Dude, this app is really cool. I really like it a lot.
I think as we adapt it more over the next couple of months, man, it's going to be insane. And it's been the last year and a half in the making. And that's what we're doing, man. Like, cool. And I just sort of rock up every day and try to float between the businesses and do my best. And that's it.
Awesome, man. So where can you tell everybody where they can find you, contact you?
Travis Jones Entrepreneur on Instagram. So at Travis Jones Entrepreneur. Like I really don't do email. I don't really do anything. You can DM me.
I know you don't do email.
I know, I'm so bad. Man. I'm so bad. I'm like the worst email person ever. Like I'm bad with I just chose not to do it.
Yeah.
So and it's just like there's so much going on in life that's one thing that I can't have going on, which sometimes makes me a sucky person. But like, it's just an active
That's
choice.
all right. I mean, I think it's part of. Yeah, I mean, I don't particularly like the doing like the social media like aspect of the business. You know, I would much rather be able to focus on the actual like product and service and education and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
it's just so there are certain aspects of life that's just kind of like. I mean, if you don't do it or you don't have someone to do it for you, like you just kind of get sort of left behind.
Yeah.
But I think eventually too, emails. I don't know. It seems kind of like an older
Thing.
thing. I
Yeah,
mean,
I've got like
Instagram seems to be. I mean, everybody kind of
everyone
just does Instagram.
just DM me.
Yeah,
like-
yeah.
DM me, I'll
Yeah.
get back to you. I have like now for the last like sort of 4 or 5 months, I have like a guy, Alvin Napster. He's from the Philippines. He looks
Yeah.
after my email.
Oh,
But like
yeah.
it was quite funny, right? Like someone emailed me and they emailed back, and his English is pretty good, but
Yeah.
just a little bit. Sometimes you can see that he's not from Australia. His English isn't first language. Someone wrote back, it's like you couldn't even email me back yourself. Like you got this like person from the English is a second language.
Yeah.
And Alvin like got upset. He's like, what should I reply? And just reply back. It's like, if that's how you want to talk to people,
Yeah.
never email me again.
Yeah.
And then from then on, I changed him to said like, when you email people back, make sure you tell it's you.
Yeah.
But then you can write CEO - Chief Email Officer. it's like
Yeah.
So he's like got this new title, and he's like,
Yeah.
this is the best thing ever.
Yeah.
But man, like, yeah, that's where you can find me on Instagram.
Okay. All right, sounds good, man. Thanks to everyone for listening and checking in on the Nirvana Strength Practitioners panel with Travis Jones this time. And if you want to come by the gym anytime and experience everything that we have to offer, and also contact Travis Jones, all his contacts and everything will be listed in the details below. But we'll see you again next time. Peace.
See you guys.